welcome to our webinar. We're being joined today by Bill Cook, who is going to talk to us about investing multiple IRA accounts into a single investment, and he's going to go over examples of deals. We're really excited to have Bill today. We're going to get to his portion of the presentation rather quickly. I know everybody isn't logging in to hear me speak today. But in case you're not aware, if you haven't heard my presentations before, my name is Larissa Greene. I've been with Advanta IRA since 2011. I do education, business development, marketing for Advanta. But I actually started out doing things like transactions, opening new accounts, check coding for investments that had expenses within the IRA accounts. And so I've done a little bit of everything with Advanta, and I also self-direct my own 401k, so I have a little bit of experience there. My contact information is here on the screen, but I would encourage anybody that is joining us today to go ahead and make sure you type any questions you might have into the question box. If you look at your navigation bar for GoToWebinar, you're going to see the opportunity to use the question box. Anything that gets typed in, we will make sure to answer questions as we go. But if you feel that you have a specific situation and you'd rather chat offline, please feel free to reach out to me using my contact information there. We also did save the slides for you as a PDF handout. So if you check out again your navigation bar for GoTo, the handouts are loaded there as a PDF, so you can save the slides, share them, and then also just keep in mind this webinar is being recorded, and so if you want to share it later on or review it later on, it will be emailed to you usually at the end of the day or the next day. I have a slide here with a little bit about Advanta IRA. We've been in business over 20 years, and we're always doing the same thing. So we handle qualified accounts, meaning IRAs, solo 401ks, self-employed types of retirement accounts, education savings accounts, and also health savings accounts. And we help individuals self-direct those accounts. So we hold the account, you find the investment, and we help you get it done in the name of the IRA. We don't sell you anything at all. We simply provide a service so that you can retain your account and its tax deferred or tax-free status. We have a little over $2.5 billion in assets under management, and we can help anybody anywhere. So we do have clients around our Tampa Bay office in Florida and our Atlanta, Georgia office. But if you're in California, if you're in Hawaii, Alaska, or even outside of the U.S., as long as you have a U.S.-based retirement account, we can help you self-direct those funds. And this is not an all or nothing strategy. So if you want to move over just a specific amount for a deal you have coming up, you can do that, and you can always move back to a brokerage firm later on when your investment is done. Just keep in mind, although we talk a lot in our webinars about the rules and investment strategies we see, that we are not going to give you legal, tax, or investment advice. Our purpose here is just to kind of educate you on what we're seeing out there in the self-directed world and what you possibly can or cannot do. But when it comes to a specific structure or investment, please seek legal or tax advice from your team of professionals, or we could certainly refer you to an attorney or CPA or accountant that can assist you. So what is a self-directed IRA? And I promise Bill is coming up quickly here, but I just wanted to give those who are joining us for the first time a little bit of information here. Self-directed IRAs, as we see them, is very specific. It's investing outside of the market. We don't have an option to invest in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds within the market. It is truly considered self-directing with us, and you are investing in private investments. And we don't put borrowers and lenders together, so it's up to our clients to put on their entrepreneurial hat and go out there and find the investments that they feel comfortable with, understand, and where they want to have their retirement accounts grow. Real estate, of course, is the #1 investment we see, and it comes in all forms. It could be in notes and mortgages, in private placements where funds are investing into multifamily real estate or buying into specific areas with mobile home parks and things of that nature. It could also be things like precious metals. So our clients are holding gold and silver bars and coins in their accounts, foreign currency, futures trading, businesses, things that might be local to you. So breweries and coffee shops and things of that nature. And the list really truly does go on. And we have other webinars in our archives focused on unique investments, things like cattle, alpaca, race horses, 18-wheeler sports teams. But we also focus on things like accounts for small business owners and things of that nature. And so if you're interested in learning more about what we do and about the different accounts that we offer, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to pull some stuff from our archive for you. But I do like to give you an idea of the different types of accounts that we hold at Advanta, because a lot of times people will say to me, well, I don't have a Roth IRA, so I can't self-direct, I can't purchase real estate or invest in the real estate market in any way without a Roth IRA. And I'm not really sure where that comes from, but the truth is, if it ends in IRA, it can be self-directed. So of course, Roth and traditional are the most common types of accounts, but if you're self-employed, you could have a SEP IRA or a simple IRA. We also help clients with solo 401ks, health savings accounts, and education savings accounts. And the rules for self-directing all of these accounts are going to be the same. And so we can help you with any of them. I also have listed up here former employer plans. And the reason we have that up here is because if you've severed ties with your employer, you're no longer participating in an employer plan, then you can self-direct it simply by rolling it over to an IRA with Advanta. And, there's emphasis there on former, because if you're currently employed, if you have a W-2 job and you're employed and the employer offers a plan, most of the time they don't allow you to roll any of that money over to a self-directed plan. But I am seeing more and more often that that is an option for employers' plans. So I always encourage people to check and find out if you're allowed to move any of that money from the 401k or whatever type of employer plan you might have into an IRA so that you can self-direct. And if you're self-employed, we have some other options that we call record-keeping accounts, where you can move over just a portion of what you have in order to self-direct that. So I'm going to hand it over to Bill now. And again, I would encourage everybody on today to make sure you type any questions into the question box there, and we'll get those answered as we go. How are you doing today, Bill?
I am doing absolutely great today. Thank you very much. And I appreciate very much you and Advanta having me here. It's a great honor. And again, Kim and I are very, very grateful. Thank you for all the stuff that you do, Larissa.
Thank you so much, Bill.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'll get started. And when I talked to Larissa, she wanted me to talk about one thing. I've kind of decided to talk about two things. So the first is, how do you put your Advanta self-directed account to work if you don't have very much money into it? And I added this one because I talk to a lot of investors around the country that have self-directed accounts, but they feel because maybe they have $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 in the account, they can't really do anything, and they don't do anything. And so I want to show you how to put your money to work when there's not a lot of money there. Also, and another thing, and I learned this as I did deals. Oftentimes Kim and I have 4 different accounts with Advanta. So Kim has a solo 401k, I have a solo 401k, I have my self-directed IRA, self-directed Roth IRA, and I have a self-directed health savings account, HSA account. And oftentimes in none of the 4 accounts do I have enough money to go do a deal. And even when I combine the 4 accounts, I may not have enough money to do a deal. Yet there's a deal out there worth doing. Maybe I'm buying an option, maybe I'm making a loan, and I want to show you how I do that. So first, about me and Kim, we're very basic. We're just mom and pop real estate investors. I did my first creative deal in 1990. I started teaching other investors how to do deals back in 1997 in Karen Danneman's house. We had to get together in Woodstock. Actually, it was Canton, Georgia, maybe Woodstock, Georgia. I forgot where, but that's kind of where we got started. As far as if you're interested in our bio, which you're probably not, you can go to billingkimcook.com. But the one thing that's really important when you do go to our website, why you want to go there, is if you look at Billing Kim Cook, there's a button at the top. Forget about our bio, but look at the history. Look at our history. And the reason why that's important is it will show you how long it took us to become good at creative deal structuring, because I'll list down by year the different deal structuring tools that I learned to work with, Kim and I learned to work with as we went forward. So looking at the history would probably be really important to you to realize we didn't go to one weekend seminar or become fluent in the language of creative deal structuring after a year or two. It took us a long time to learn the language of creative deal structuring. And make no mistake, deal structuring is a language that's learned like any language that's learned, and it takes a lot of time and effort. But anyway, to get more information about us, please go to billandkimcook.com. So why is Advanta so important to us? And Kim and I love Advanta. So first, foremost, we love Advanta because of Larissa Greene, the lady you were listening to on this call. And if anybody from Advanta is listening to this, there's something you should know. I am with Larissa. She happens to be with Advanta. If you don't treat her right, if she goes somewhere else, I promise you, we're going to go to wherever Larissa goes. So we're with Larissa. We're with Advanta because of Larissa, and she's always there. And I've known Larissa probably for 7, maybe 8 years. And when I'm down in the St. Pete area, when I go to like the exchangers meeting on Thursday mornings, or I go to one of the real estate investor functions, that I always see Larissa there. There are a lot of different custodians that have come through, hawking their wares, but you don't see them again after the 2 or 3 weeks. They're just gone. Larissa is there. She shows up, and that's extremely important to me. And a lot of my friends invest with Advanta because of Larissa, and that's really important. So the other reason we're with Advanta is we want to generate income as much as possible in our self-directed retirement accounts. And the reason is they're tax-free. And the reason why this is important is if we're able to use our our tax-free accounts to do most of our investing, that means the money is not being, siphoned off through taxes. That gives us more money to invest with, and it allows us to keep more of the money that we earn from our investments, and that gives us even more money to invest. So we're able to grow our accounts much faster because we just don't have the tax expenses associated with the investments that we have outside our Advanta accounts. So that's why it's really important.
Well, thank you so much, Bill, for your kind words. And that's a great explanation on self-directed IRAs too, because when you have an investment within the account, it's important based on how the structure is. I mean, just very simply, your retirement account can be invested in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, or it can be invested in these private investments. It's definitely not one of those things where people say, okay, but I don't know how much to move over. I don't know how to do this. And it's all about, diversifying your portfolio and finding those investments that you feel comfortable in.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I like Advanta, because again, y'all do this education and it's recorded, and you can go back and listen to it. So you can't sit back and say, I don't know how to work with a retirement account, or I don't know how to work with my self-direct, because the information is there, because you interview Advanta, and you and some other people that you work with have done bunches and bunches of interviews with some of the best investors across the country, not just real estate investors, but all sorts of investors. And the information is there just to learn. You've got to be willing to make the effort. So that's greatly appreciated. So the reason why, as far as how we use our self-directed accounts, I've had retirement accounts since probably the late 70s. And most of the time, my IRAs, not most of the time, my IRAs were only holding stocks, stocks. That was it. So that it would have Walmart or Home Depot or, whoever I was buying their stock to hold. And that's the only way we knew to build our retirement accounts. But then comes along Roth IRAs back in the 90s, and then self-directed IRAs, Roth IRAs came along at the same time. And that was all the difference in the world, especially when all of a sudden I could, instead of just investing in stocks, I could also invest in real estate notes and real estate options, things that I knew how to work with, that I understood much better than I understood the stock market. And so that was a big turning point for us. And so, Kim and I have never, ever done a deal, put a property, a piece of real estate in one of our self-retirement accounts. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I have friends of mine, this is exactly what they do, and they've done very well. It's just that when we learned how to use our self-directed accounts, I learned from Jack Miller and Pete Fortunato and Dyke Spotiford. And the thing they taught me was, have any property inside our retirement account could be more risky if there was a slip and fall. And so we learned early on how to use notes and options to control the benefits of a property without actually having to have the deed inside our IRA. So that's why we did it. Nothing wrong with it. Just for us, we learned a different structure. And another thing you should know is even though Kim and I are in our mid 60s, we have never taken a dime out of any of our self-directed accounts. The money is stayed there, and it's for the reason I told you earlier. We want it making money. So one of the lessons I want to share with you that I learned way back when, which is if I ever need money, if I need money for something, the first place I turn to is my taxed money, my money that's outside my retirement accounts, and I will spend every dime I have, taking money from those accounts before I ever touch a self-directed accounts. And the reason why is the reason why I mentioned earlier is by having the money stay and remain in my self-directed accounts, I'm able to put that money to work, and what it earns is tax-free. So even when I have to pay a fee for a deal I did with Advanta, I make sure I pay that fee outside my retirement account. I don't take a dime out of my retirement accounts. I want that money working for me, and the results are tax-free income. So at some point in time, I know that due to bad health or senility, and there's a pool out there about which one will hit me first, that I'm going to need to liquidate assets to live. And I just want y'all to know that I'll take money out of our corporate account or out of our LLC, or I'll sell off rental property if I need to. But the last thing I'm going to touch is my Advanta tax-free account. I want that money to make tax-free money for as long as I possibly can make it. And something y'all should know is Kim and I don't have children. So needless to say, yes, we're working hard to grow our retirement accounts with Advanta. So if any of you are looking to think about being adopted, just let me know, because we're up to some deals. Maybe we'll consider that, because again, we don't have really any heirs other than my office manager Tara, who's like a daughter to me. So let's talk about the three biggest mistakes that I see investors make when they open up an IRA account with Advanta. First of all, the first biggest problem I see is not opening the account in the first place. So they don't open an investment account. They don't open a health savings account. They just fail to do it because they're overwhelmed. They feel they don't really have a lot of money to put in there. And you'll see in a second that you can do deals even though you don't have a lot of money in your account. But failing to open up an Advanta account is the biggest mistake I see. Then the second biggest mistake is when I see people open up accounts, but because of fear and because of ignorance meaning they don't know what to do, they don't know how to invest that money, the money just sits in the account. It just doesn't do anything. You got to go put that money to work. And the third problem I see people have is because they have maybe $1,000 or $500 or $10,000 in the account, they think to themselves, I hear people all the time need to borrow money, but they need to borrow $100,000 or $200,000, and I don't have that in my Advanta account. So therefore, I just can't do anything. I'll just sit here on my hands, not doing anything. And just know that even when you have just a little bit of money in your self-directed retirement account, you can go do deals, as you're about to see. So the thing you should be thinking of with real estate investing in general, with self-directed accounts in particular, is you have to take action. You have to get yourself involved. You have to get out there. You have to attend meetings, and then you have to pull the trigger. You have to get your money invested. So a lot of training goes into Advanta. A lot of those calls are here. You can learn this stuff. If you have a question, Larissa's already said, give her a phone call. You're welcome to give me a phone call. Just get busy, take action, do something. And to give you an example of that, I want you to consider this. If my goal 6 months from now was to run a marathon, I decided this is what I'm going to go do, and I really want to go run a marathon, and I came to you for advice, I said, I need you to help me. I want to run a marathon 6 months from now. What would you tell me? What advice would you give me to tell me, okay, Bill, the most important thing you do today, if you want to run a marathon 6 months from now, the most important thing you do today is what? What would you tell me? Let me help you here. Go out today and run. If you run down to your mailbox and back, and that's all you're able to do, that's a start. Go run. And then what would you tell me to do tomorrow? Run just a little bit further. And the day after, run a little bit further still. Again, you have to take action. If you do with a marathon, just go out and run. You're not going to talk to me about shoes and shorts and what I'm supposed to eat or what's the best marathon to get into. Is go out tomorrow and run.
I
So
think that's
let's
great information, Bill. I just a little bit about myself. I mentioned at the beginning that I self-direct my 401k, and I help people do deals in their retirement accounts all the time. But it's different when you're, handling it for yourself. And so the very first deal I did um, was something, taking that first step was difficult. And so I think that's great advice, thinking about how you have to get out there and work on it yourself and, learn about the deal and learn about the process. So I think that's really good information.
Yeah, thank you. And so let's look at the two deals I did with Advanta. And I want you to understand on the first deal you're going to see, I only had $300 in my self-directed HSA account. Yet I was able to be part of a $250,000 loan that I controlled. So I had $300 in my HSA account, and I didn't even use all the money. I only used a third of the money that was in my account, so $100, and I still got myself into a deal that 5 years later produced a profit, tax-free profit of over $30,000. The second deal you're going to see is we recently made a $129,000 loan, but in none of my accounts did I have $129,000. I had a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit over there. And even with our accounts, we didn't have the $129,000 we needed to do the loan. So I even had to turn to another friend of mine and bring him into the deal to make it work. The point here is I didn't let not having very much money prevent me from doing a deal. So as you look at these deals you're about to see, please understand, I am not teaching you how to structure these deals. What I'm doing is showing you that it can be done, and your job is to go forth and learn how to structure where you're able to use little bits of money to involve yourself into some really big deals with really good yields. So I'm not teaching you how, I'm showing you that it's possible. So your eyes open up, you go, oh, as long as I know I can go do this, then I'm gonna go learn how to go do this. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Million Screws deal. And what this was a warehouse that was in Cartersville, Georgia. And a friend of mine called me up, and an investor friend of mine called me up, and he needed the money to be able to buy this 10,000 square foot warehouse. And I normally don't invest in commercial property. I'm a single family house, mobile home park, mobile home trailer guy. But when I pulled up in front of this building, it just had such a unique name, which was a home of a million screws. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail here, but I thought my friend Dyke Spotiford needed to be part of the Million Screws deal. So like I said, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I thought having him a part of this deal and having him use the phrase million screws over and over again, what's not to like about this? So let's talk about what the borrower needed. And when I talked to him, the fair market value on this property was $450,000. And the purchase price was $350,000. So he was getting a deal on this property, and the seller was including in all the inventory that was in this 10,000 square foot warehouse. And that amounted to about another $200,000 in inventory. And the borrower was going to put down $100,000 of his own money. So that made this very attractive. There was lots of equity here. and the borrower needed to borrow $250,000 to make this deal work. And when I asked what he was willing to pay, he was willing to pay 10% interest and pay 1 point that would be paid outside of closing. So I would receive the 1 point, which would equal $2,500. And he also agreed, though I think that the term on the loan would be 20 years, but there would be a 5-year balloon built into the note. So at the end of the 5 years, he would owe us the money back. So that's where this borrower stood. And as we stood in front of the building this first time, this is what he was willing to do. So my job is to make this happen. And the huge problem I had is I was going to use one account, which was my health savings account. I only had $300 in my account. So I knew I was going to use a third of that money. Now, my friend John Heyer, who is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my lifetime, he will say and he will warn that one of the things you should not do is put just a little bit of money into a deal and have it make a whole bunch of money. But in this case, I felt comfortable because I didn't have any money in this account. It was loaned out. I only had $300 sitting, and I just don't think the IRS can say, well, because you don't have a lot of money in your account, you can't go do a deal. I used a third of what I had to make this deal work. So I want to show you how this worked. So the borrower, and this is the solution to the problem, the borrower needed $250,000, no problem. Well, I had a friend of mine that had come to me that had money sitting in their retirement account and said, hey, if you come across a deal, I'd like to be a part of it. And so I went to my friend and said, listen, I can put you in first position on this loan. And he agreed to loan $220,000 of the $250,000 needed. And he agreed to get paid a 9%, paid 9% interest, no points. And this would make his payment $1,989.65. So that's what he would be paid every month. So now I had 220 of the 250. And then I turned to another investor friend of mine, and his wife had a retirement account that was just sitting, and it only had about $35,000 in it. And he said, I would like to be a part of this. And so they agreed to loan $29,900 in second position at 8% interest with monthly payments of $251.25. Okay, so now I have $249,900 of the needed money. We're missing $100. Now remember, my borrower agreed to borrow $250,000, 10% interest, pay 1 point at closing, and this would make my friend's my borrower's payment $2,426.43. So my loan of $250,000, 10% 1 point or 10% would be in third position, but my third position note would be wrapping the first and second position. So this would involve a wrap. And what that means is that within the bounds of my HSA self-directed note would be the first and second note. And the way this would work is each month the borrower would pay a payment of $2,426.43. And from this amount, then the lender in first position would be paid $19.89. The lender in second position would be paid $251, and there would be about $180 left over that I would keep, $185 left over that would go into my HSA self-directed account. So this is the structure, and this is how I came up with the $250,000 this borrower needed. And why did the lender in first position agree to 9%? Because he had money sitting and he felt 9% was fair to him. And why did the lender in second position agree to 8%? The answer was his wife's IRA was just sitting there and he wanted to put it to work, and then she, to teach her, here's how you can do a deal. This is what's involved in the real world of doing a loan from your IRA so she would learn how to do it in the real world. And the reason why I did this and why I was involved is Ned, the borrower, knew me, came to me, and I was able to make this happen for him. So that's what happened here. And what you're looking at now, this is the third position, commercial note, where I loaned Ned the $250,000, and you can see circled the 250. Then the second circle down, you can see that his payment would be $2,426. And then you can see in third position when the note was coming due. This because it was a 20-year AM, but a 5-year balloon, and it would be coming due on May 1st, 2022. And you can see also the top left-hand corner that the date of this loan was April 10th, 2017. Also in this note, because it's within the bounds of my of this wrapping note, I have listed the first lender's note of $220,000. And then I also below that, I have listed the second note, and that's going to be listed for $29,900. And I also have down where you can find these notes recorded. So the first position got note recorded first. It's in deed book 2912, page 790. And then the second position note is also recorded in deed book 2912, and this starts at page 795. So that's what you're looking at. And that's how, again, I don't want to go into lots of things as far as how this deal was done. I just want you to know that it was possible. Now look what happened to my Advanta HSA account. It invested $100, and 5 years later, it made $31,700.80. Now, one thing I've got to tell you is when I talked to my borrower, he was going through some tough times, and I did modify this note early on where I said what it would help where if you were paying only for the first and second and not paying me, and this helped him a lot. So we modified the note to where my HSA was not getting any payments. It got the balloon payment when this was paid off in 2022. So that's why the 31,700 was so much. Is my loan, my portion of the loan was negative amming, and the yearly yield that I made on this deal was 121%. The yearly yield was 121%. In other words, every year my investment made 120% return on the investment, and this went into a self-directed HSA account, which means what it was making was tax-free. So that was a really good deal to do, and I was real proud of this deal, and it kept two of my friends' retirement accounts working with me. So I told you guys before on our website that we learned how to do creative deal structuring, and I am teaching a seminar, and I wanted y'all to see it, and it's called What Box 2023, and it's advanced creative deal structuring. And so this isn't, I don't teach how to do subject to deals, and I don't teach how to do wrap mortgages, and I don't teach how to do master leasing. Instead, this is how to use the different tools to make a single deal work, and we call that structure stacking. So the seminar will be on September 16th and 17th, 2023. It will be in warm, sunny Tampa, Florida. And if you can't come down to it, you can also attend the seminar via Zoom. Now, normally to attend is $597 a person. And I just talked to Kim, so we've put a special on this, and this is only for this call, and it's only through midnight tonight. And the coupon special, the coupon is you have to put in special, and it will drop the price from $597 down to $497, but that's only through midnight tonight. And again, that allows you to attend either Zoom or in person, $497. This will be recorded, and everybody attending will get a copy of the recording. And the coupon code is special. Again, Kim just did this. That's why I don't have it down here. And if you're still curious about what Box is about, I'll be doing a free deal school starting tomorrow night from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And Kim, how does someone get onto Deal School? Go to our website?
It's not on the website. Email me.
Email Kim or call Kim at 770-815-8727, and she'll get you signed up. 8728, sorry. 770-827-815-8728, and she'll get you signed up. So there you go. Let's go to the second deal now.
And Bill, before you go on, we did have a couple of questions pop up,
Go ahead.
and so I want to go over those. We did have a
Wait,
question.
Larissa,
Yeah.
I want to answer those questions, but I also want to add in, if you're listening and you have questions, give me a call. I'll be happy to take time and answer them. My phone number is 770-815-8727. That's for mine. I'll be happy to answer them. But go ahead, Larissa, ask the questions.
Okay. So one of the questions that popped up was using multiple accounts with, you know, a self-directed IRA administrator. So if you use a multiple Advanta IRA accounts, then you're going to be subject to multiple fees. And that is correct. And I understand the concern there. And I'm going to let Bill answer this as well. But I'm going to just start by saying, you do have to look at what fees you might be paying and what the growth on the investment might be and make a decision as to whether or not it makes sense for you. We can't determine that for you. But another thing that you can do is if you are lending money, you can have your borrower pay the fees. Sometimes our clients will charge our fees to their borrowers. Sometimes they charge points. Sometimes they do both. Sometimes there's a fee for, the deal being put together. And so there's a lot of different ways to sort of mitigate those fees. But Bill, what are your thoughts on that?
No, you just hit the nail on the head. In fact, you're the one that taught me that, because I looked at the fees and I was like, okay, that's just part of the cost of doing business, is like putting on a roof or putting on gutters or painting a room when you're flipping a house. Just, it's just part of the expenses. But from you, and I don't even remember when I learned it. It was a while ago, that when I charge points, that covers part of the fees. But also nowadays, a lot of times I will put the fees I'm charged on the HUD. When they're borrowing the money, that's just part of the fees the borrower pays at closing. So I'm not paying the fees, the borrower is.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. We had another question pop up here that, what is the risk of being the note holder and how do you minimize and hedge against that risk, and what happens if the borrower defaults?
Okay, well, it's like with any loan, if the borrower defaults, and that's always the risk when you're doing any loan. We make sure that we have really good collateral. So a lesson I learned from Dyke Spotiford and Jack Miller and Pete Fortunato early on is, when I'm making a loan, I don't think of it as I'm making a loan. I think of it as I'm buying a property. I mean, think of all the banks that were out there in 2004, 5, and 6 making loans. They didn't realize they were actually buying property. Because when the economy tanked in 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and they were foreclosing, they were getting the property back for the amount of money they had loaned out. And that's why so many banks went out of business. So that never leaves my mind, is that I'm buying the property, that the lender is going to walk away. Am I still happy? So look at this deal where the property was worth $450. There was $200,000 in inventory in the building that came along with the property, and the borrower was putting down $100,000. That was a very safe deal for us to do. So if I would have needed to foreclose and take this property back, I would have been in a very good position. And our retirement accounts, so I was in there with Dykes and Doug too, would have made a lot more money than we made just being the lender.
Great, thank you, Bill. And yeah, I mean, and that's part of what Advanta says all the time, is making sure that you understand the investment, doing your due diligence, and making sure that you feel comfortable with the investment. So a lot of times people look at a deal structure and say, this just isn't for me. And maybe it's not for your retirement account. I mean, a lot of people over the years, this happens all the time, where they say, you know what, this isn't the investment for my retirement account. But then, months later or a year later, they come back to me and say, I found the investment that I'm comfortable with for my retirement account. So I think that's a really important part of it as well.
Yep.
Another question that popped up, let's see. Oh, asking for Kim's number again, please.
Kim's number, her number is 770-815-8728. And she's a lot more fun to talk to than I am. And again, just to say it one more time, you can just email her to be part of Deal School, and her email address is, kimcook5060@gmail.com.
Okay, I have kimcook5060@gmail.com.
Yep, and I'm real sorry I didn't have that on the slide, but Kim just threw this at me to do the $100 discount down to $497 a person for what box?
So everybody that is on right now, I did just put it as an answer in the question box. So if you go to the answers, I sent it to all kimcook5060@gmail.com for you to find that. And another question popped up here. What is a good source to find deals?
Okay, well, I'm a door knocker. And so and door knocking is just one of the ways. There's people who do mail outs. There's people who work MLS leads. There's people who have realtors who help them do it. There's people who advertise with bandit signs and billboards, and they put their names on buses. There's not just a way. For me, I'm a door knocker because it's what I've done since I was 12 years old, and I'm 63 now. So for over 50 years, I've made my living knocking on homeowners' doors and being invited in. And that just works for me. So find what works for you. But I will tell you this, I get a lot of calls from investors from around the country, and they're having a really tough go of it. They're not making it. And when I talk to an investor that's not making it, I ask 2 questions and only 2 questions, and it gets right to the heart of the problem. So the first question I ask is, how many written offers have you made in the last 30 days? And the answer is usually 0. The second question I ask is, how many written offers have you made in the last 12 months? And the answer is usually less than 10. I do not know how anybody can possibly think that they're going to succeed if you're not out making written offers and putting it in somebody's hand. And my goal when I'm working is 25 written offers a week. So for me, door knocking gets me out there, and I'm knocking on my first door Monday morning at 9 a.m. and I knock doors until 30 minutes before sunset. And usually sometime on Wednesday, I've made my 25th written offer, and I'm done with marketing for that week. Then I go out and do whatever else I need to go do. I'll go to a seminar, I'll take a webinar, I'll go teach, I'll go on a lake and go fish, whatever else. But I've got to get those 25 written offers done first. And I'm not telling you to go do 25 written offers, but have a number, whatever. If it's 1, that's great. That means at least you're doing 4 or 5 written offers a week. But get your weekly goal of written offers done each and every week. That's critical.
Another question we had pop up, Bill, is how, assuming you have a ton of these deals going on at one time, how do you manage them and keep the bookkeeping in place?
Well, I have an office manager named Tara Whitlock, and she helps me a lot with my bookkeeping. And Kim does not do the record keeping. God help us if she did. I do the record keeping. So I'm the one that writes the contracts, does the record keeping. She also is a door knocker. She goes out and she finds deals. I go out, I find deals. And just so you know, I was never one that did like 30 deals a year. Kim and I did somewhere between 12, 15 deals a year. And I like having one deal going at a time, nothing more than that. And so if I come across more deals than I can handle, I will assign or wholesale the contract to another investor, because I don't want to have too much food on my plate. And I'm comfortable one deal at a time, maybe, like I said, 10, 12, 15 deals a year. It's just Kim and I held that pace for more than 20 years, and we kept a lot of the houses that we bought. There were good rentals, and that was our key. And the other part of it is our goal was always free and clear. So we did not we would work our butts off paying our houses off, and we sacrificed for 15 years getting our properties free and clear. So every vacation we went on, if we went on a vacation, was to a Jack Miller or a Pete Fortunato or a Dykes Bodiford seminar, or add in David Tilney or John Schaub. Those we just went to seminars for vacations and learned, and we would go home and then go out and do more offers. And that's just what we did. Like I said, we're nothing special. We just worked very hard. We paid off our houses. We got them free and clear. And nowadays we live in a motorhome, and we travel around the country full time. So we are full time in our motorhome. That's where I am right now. And in fact, a week from Saturday, we relocate from Adairsville, Georgia, down to Venice, Florida for the winter. and we'll be down there.
Another question that we had pop up, and you mentioned options. Is there a certain amount of time for an option in an IRA? And I just want to remind everybody that when you're looking at this type of stuff, just be sure that you talk to your CPA about something like this. But when you hold the option, Bill, do you feel like there's a specific amount of time before it should be executed? And the person asking the question used the term magic option, which we sometimes hear when we go to real estate seminars. But do you feel like if you hold it a certain amount of time, it wouldn't be subject to scrutiny?
Yeah, John Hyre is the one that came up with the phrase magical options, and I thought it was just great. And when I'm doing options, I want them as long as possible. And you're about to see a deal, and you're about to see it. I'm going to only talk about the loan side of the loan I did for a mobile home park here in Rome, Georgia, which is close to me. But this also invented an option, and that option was a 50-year option. So I have 50 years to buy a 10% interest in this property for $1,000. So my options are long-term things, and the chance of me being alive 50 years from now is about damn zero. So my heirs will inherit that option.
Great, thank you, Bill. And yes, and that's, you do, with alternative investments in an IRA, there are rules you want to keep in mind, that there can't be a current benefit to the IRA holder or specific family members up and down your lineal tree, and that includes your spouse. And in other webinars, we go more specifically into what would be considered a prohibited transaction, what's a gray area, and when it's time to seek legal counsel. So if you're looking to find out more about that, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll send you a webinar that we have already done, or we can certainly discuss it. So again, my contact information was at the beginning of the presentation, and you can download the slides and find it there. Let's see, one other question that just popped up: is this being recorded, and will we get the presentation? You will. It is being recorded, and it gets emailed out to you usually at the end of the day or the next day. And we're going to go on here, but if you have more questions, please let us know and we'll address those after Bill is done. I want to make sure we complete the information he wanted to share before we end the webinar. Bill?
Okay, and I want to go back to a second to the magical option. Understand what this is. So let's say that I have a flip that I'm doing. I'm going to make $100,000 profit on the flip. And so I play a game, which is, well, I'm going to have my IRA buy an option on this property, and I'm going to sell the property for, or a friend of mine is going to sell the property for what he has in it. And then, so my self-directed account buys an option on a property for $100. And then 7 days later, $100,000 magically appears in the IRA. Don't do that, because that doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying don't do that deal. Don't do it inside your self-directed retirement account. You can do it outside and then go pay the taxes on it. That's absolutely fine. But don't do crazy deals inside your old age money. That's not where you want to be creative and pushing the boundaries and hanging your toes over the gray edge of the line. Don't do that. Stay away from those types of deals. Okay. So let's talk about a loan we just did on the Rome Trailer Park in Rome, Georgia, and we did this several months ago. And y'all should know, and you've heard me say this, is the borrower, well, I'll show you what he needed $129,000, and you'll see the loan is only for $128,000. So I'm jumping the gun. I didn't want to make this part of the presentation, but this might help you to see some of the things you can do. So in this case, our retirement accounts made the loan of $128,000. In addition, my retirement accounts bought an option to buy a 10% interest in this property anytime in the next 50 years. You can only imagine what this property, this mobile home park, will be worth, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now. But at any time, and I've already paid the $1,000, it's able to buy a 10% interest. That means 10% of the rents, 10% of the appreciation. It's just, this was a good deal. I don't want to touch on this here because I'm going to get you lost in it. So let's just look at the loan side of what we did. So the fair market value on this mobile home park was about $200,000, and the purchase price was $145,000. And one of the questions you're going to have is, why did the borrower agree to borrow the money from me at 13% and 4 points? And why did he also agree to give me an option to buy 10% interest? And the answer is, he had never done a park and I had. And so let's just go to the purchase price. He was under contract, and within 2 days of closing on this park at $185,000. So that was the original amount we were loaning, somewhere around there. But there were some problems with the park, and I told him to check different things because Kim and I own a park, and we've been involved in a number of mobile home deals. And with a problem we found with a sewer line, going back to the seller, he was able to drop the price from 185 down to 145. This is why he wants me in his deal, as I understand how parks work. And there's been a number of other things we've done for him since, but this is just one example. The price dropped from 185 to 145, and it closed 3 or 4 days later, but we got it done. The seller was putting down, or the borrower was putting down $16,000, and that meant the borrower needed to borrow $129,000 to make this deal work. And the borrower was agreeing to pay 13% with 4 points rolled in. That means a point is 1% of the loan. So if you do 1%, in this case, the loan was going to be $128,000. If you do 1% of that, that would be 1,200 and whatever. Anyway, but that's 1%. But this is 4% of the loan, but that's rolled back into the loan. So even though the amount the borrower was getting at closing was $128,000, the amount of the loan was $133,333.33, because the points were rolled in, which means we're making 13% not just on the loan, but also on the points, which meant our retirement accounts are making a really good return on the money. So there was only one huge problem. Same problem as before, is in none of my accounts by itself did I have $129,000. In fact, if you totaled my 4 accounts I have with Advanta, which is Kim's 401k, my 401k, my Roth IRA, and my self-directed HSA, if you combined what was in all 4 of those accounts, I still didn't have $129,000. So I want you to see how I put this to work, how I made this thing work. So we created something called a paper trust. Now, before I'm not going to teach you how to do paper trust, and at what box you'll see the full documentation on this deal, except for the paper trust, because I got the paper trust from Dyke Spotiford, and he's my teacher, and I can't use his documents and just give them away. But I will tell you that he and I have spent 2 years working on a paper trust, that a paper trust holds things like notes and options. And we really like this document. So this paper trust had a number of beneficiaries. One of the beneficiaries was Kim's 401k. One was my 401k. One was my Roth IRA. One was my HSA. And one was my friend's 401k. Now, there is no wrapping going on. We're each making 13% and 4 points, and we're making the percentage of the amount of money we have into this loan, into this deal, we get, that's how much money we're getting of this note, that percentage of the note. Click. Let's see. There we go. And now you're looking at the first paragraph of the paper trust. So we're using T. Whitlock as the trustee, and the name I put on the trust was the Rome Capital Trust. Now, again, this paper trust is probably about 9 pages long, but this is the agreement we used to hold the different beneficiaries. And when we made this loan, the money came out of each of the retirement accounts that we have at Advanta, and Advanta wired the money to the closing attorney. Okay, And so there's steps that we had to take to do the loan. Advanta had to see a copy of each note, of the note, and what percentage of ownership each of the accounts had in it. So I jumped through the hoops that they needed, but this was the paper trust we used. And now what you're looking at is we secured the note that Melvin signed. And so Melvin Rodriguez, he is the borrower. And this was done in May 2023. And then again, you can see the name of the lender, which is T. Whitlock, as trustee of the Roan Capital Trust. This trust has a number of beneficiaries, and the beneficiaries, again, are our retirement accounts that we have at Advanta. And you'll see that what Melvin borrowed was what the amount of the loan was $133,000. And if you'll take $128,000, add in 4 points, you'll get $133,333. So that's where this came from. So my point is this: I showed you 2 different deals, and with each deal, one was I only had $300 in my HSA account. I was able to be part of a $250,000 loan using $100, a third of what I had in my HSA account. And in the second loan, what you're looking at is I used a variety of, I used every retirement account or self-directed account and health savings account that we have at Advanta to be part of one loan. And also it is part of the option that we did. So that's what you're looking at here. So Larissa, I know that people will be frustrated going, how did you do the deal? In 40 minutes, there's just no time to go into that kind of information. I just want you to know it's possible. I want you to open up your Advanta self-directed accounts and then go put them to work. Don't think you have to sit on the sidelines because you only have $100 or $500 in there. You can go make this work. So I hope this helps. If you need to learn more about us, go to billandkimcook.com. And Larissa, I hand the mic back over to you.
Thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate it. I think that was really great information, and it really does show sort of the surface of deal structuring, which is going to be important for your IRA. I would encourage everybody to check out Bill's class. I have been so many times at this point, I don't even remember how many times. And you're going to learn a lot about deal structuring there, and it's encouraging, really. I mean, the bottom line is, you know, like you said, training for a marathon, getting out there and doing the first deal, making sure you understand how to do your due diligence and your homework really on every investment that you do. We did have another question pop up about finding where to network with other investors, and you know, a good place to start if you're not local to either me or Bill is to check out something called real estate investment groups, and those are RIAs, R-E-I-A. There's a national RIA, but there's also local ones as well, and I think you could probably find them on Meetup. And once you find a couple, then you'll find a whole lot more. And what I still do, even to this day, is when I visit a meeting, I do some networking. I ask other people networking where they like to network. And by doing that, I have found all kinds of investor meetup groups, and you know, big or small, I think they're all really great, and so that's a great way to get started. You can also reach out to me to find out where I network online. So there's still a lot of online networking events going on, and if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out to me. But I would say start with a couple local investors, find out where they network, and go from there. Any other advice you wanted to add in, Bill, before we close?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you said, as I said early in the program, creative deal structuring is just a language. And the best way to learn the language is immersion. You have to be around it a lot and often. So again, go to our website, look at the Bill and Kim button, go look at our history. You know, understand that I'm going to classes all the time. I was learning different deal structures and then going out and putting it to work. You know, you can't just sit on your hands. You can't wait for the phone to ring. You can't watch YouTube videos sitting back hoping that something's going to happen. It's not going to happen. You've got to get busy. You've got to take action. You've got to get out there and get around people who speak the language fluently.
Yep, exactly. And another question popped up. Can you join an Advanta account with a non-Advanta account to fund? Yes, absolutely. There's all different kinds of ways to partner. It can be any self-directed IRAs, whether it's with Advanta or not. Of course, we want you to be with us. We hope to earn your business. But if you have friends and family that don't have Advanta IRA accounts, those can be partnered. You can partner with personal cash, other investors. There's lots of different ways to structure a deal, and we have a few webinars on that as well. So please, again, feel free to reach out to me. With that, I don't see any other questions. If anybody has any questions for me or Bill, just let us know. Again, I'll give you just another minute to download the handout if you would like to, and this recording will go out to you usually by the end of today or tomorrow, and we hope that you'll share it. Thank you for joining us. I'll talk to you soon, Bill. Thank you.
No problem at all. Really enjoyed it, Larissa. Thank you for all you do for the real estate and investing community.
Thank you, Bill. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.